Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the post game show, the Jacksonville State Edition, where for the first time in over a month, we get to talk about a W. Now, that W might not have been the prettiest W by any stretch of the imagination, but you needed to start this month of November off with a W, and you managed to find one. And today we're going to talk about pretty much everything. We're airing it all out. I've come to understand or realize that this fan base likes their program being talked about a certain way. Now, more times than not, I have seen a lot of Carolina fans be okay with certain things Beamer does and other Carolina fans not being okay with it. However, I typically see a trend of the people who think Shane Beamer is calling out fans, which he did, um, which I'm completely okay with it, and we'll explain that in just a second. And then there's fans that don't see a problem with it at all because, well, they kind of agree. There are a lot of people that have platforms that don't really deserve one. Hey, my name probably be in that too. I'm sure there are people out there that don't want to hear my opinion either. It happens. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend my opinion matters to anybody either. But at what point, because I was having a discussion yesterday, and essentially what the conversation was about was, well, Shane Beamer needs to do a better job of respecting the fans and giving the fans what they want. However, I'm not going to do anything for Shane Beamer because they suck. Is essentially what the whole premises of this conversation was. So essentially he was like, I'm not going to do anything for Beamer, but he has to do this for me. I'm just going to go ahead and let you know, not just in college football, just life in general, that's not how life works. Um, you can't pick and choose when you want to support and then get upset when you get called out on that. Now, again, I think Beamer, there's things he has to do better, but like I put out yesterday, Beamer is a coach that wears his heart on his sleeve and his emotions on his sleeve. Sometimes that makes for great clips. Sometimes it makes for clips that get him put in the news for reasons that you don't want to see your head coach in. Regardless of the fact, I'm okay with it as someone that's not necessarily a fan, but someone just that covers the program. I'm completely fine with how he handled that yesterday because he got out in front of the people that were going to bash their team for celebrating a win over Jacksonville State. Now, am I sitting here and telling you that they defeated an incredibly good team? No. Jacksonville State is good in their own right. Their scheme, I knew would give this defense problems. I did not think it would give them this many problems. And when we watch the film and you see this up here, because I just got done watching the defense this morning, I'm going to watch the offense. It's not even that it gave you problems. It's just you didn't finish. But we'll talk about that on Tuesday on the film. But Beamer got out in front of it and just said, "Look, people are going to just be all gloom and doom that why are you celebrating the fact that you barely beat a now FBS program? They're in the transition to becoming a Division One football program. Why are you celebrating it like you just beat a Georgia or whatever?" And to that, I'm fine with it. I agree with it because it was going to happen anyway. Why not get out in front of it? Matter of fact, there was a video out of Shawn Elliott that essentially what he said after that JMU loss, because they were down 7 at half and just kind of gave it away. Basically said it was poor coaching execution, poor player execution. Starts with me, starts with the assistants, starts with the players. Essentially has done what Beamer has done before with a little bit more passion, but Beamer gets thrown under the bus by his own fan base that he's calling out his players, he's calling out his fans. It's everyone but his fault. When he says it starts with him. So here's my comments to that, and we're going to move on. If you have a problem anytime Coach Beamer calls out the fan base, it's because you're part of the problem. Not every negative tweet needs to be put out. Not every negative thought needs to be put out. We talked about this over a month ago when we had the post game show where it was exactly what you wanted to hear about the defense side of the ball, and there needed to be changes. And there still does. I still believe there needs to be changes regardless of how decent they have played, which, again, they kind of went back to the old ways yesterday. And that's kind of just it right there. Not everything needs to be put out. And do I agree with worrying about the fan base as much? No, I don't. But to an extent, and I know the argument that's going to be used against this is, well, they get paid to do it. They should just be able to move on. I mean, come on. They at some point, the coaches have to stand up not only for themselves but the football program itself. And I have seen, just in a short amount of time covering South Carolina, a lot, and I mean a lot of tweets, and a lot of opinions, just straight up bashing Coach Beamer, Clayton White, sometimes even Dow Loggins, players everywhere. Rarely do you see many, hey, this was a good job by XXXXXYZ, whatever. Rarely do you see. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just saying the priority, or not the priority, the majority of it. It's just what you hear. The bad will always outweigh the good, kind of thing. You always see more bad than you do see good. And so to that, and like I said, we'll get out of here with this part. We'll move on to the actual post game show. Criticism is okay. Constructive criticism is fine. Like, hey, defense, we need to do a better job tackling. It's week 9 and we still can't tackle. What's going on? Valid question. We need that answer. Why are we not tackling like a Division 1 school should be week 9 into the season? It was just as bad as it was week 1 yesterday. That's a valid issue. That's a valid constructive criticism. Hey, and this is why I wish I could go to these press conferences on Tuesday, because I don't like asking questions after the game because I want to watch the film. I feel like for me, I don't know what truly happened in that game outside of the instant reaction. And that's not always the best thing to do. There were several things that I'm going to call myself out on Tuesday. Like, for example, I blame that deep ball on DQ. Not necessarily all DQ's fault. Now, again, because I need to know what was the play call. DQ was extremely close up. I'm talking about that big bomb when Kilgore was in the nickel. DQ, the big bomb for the touchdown. He was close up into essentially in the box in that safety position. Was that the play call? Was that where he was told to be, or was he cheating up too much? What was it? There was that. Stone Blanton, another one. I thought he had a bad game. And by technicality, yes, he did, but he was there. Everywhere you needed him to be, he was there. He just didn't finish. That is a young man that if he can figure it out, and I mean just get a half a second of instincts that much quicker, he will be extremely good for this defense. I mean, he is like this much away from being a very good player. But all this to say, not everything negative has to be put out about your team. Why do we have to we can put, and it can be just simple as this. Not a very good win, wasn't even a pretty win, but it's a win. Leave it at that. And then let's talk about what we can fix moving into Vanderbilt. But when you see that's the most embarrassing win in program history. This win is awful. It shouldn't even matter. We're not going to a bowl game. That's why you got the response from Coach Beamer that you got. He's got to stand up for his program and fight for his program, because even he admitted it didn't look like there was much fight in the game from the players. He's got to figure out something. And while it might seem like an attack at you, it's only an attack if you are that fan. Just stop. If you don't want to support it, that's you. Don't go to the games. Don't complain about the games. If you want to continue to support it, please do. They need it. And on top of that, do it within a way that we can actually, it actually seems like you support the program. Again, difference between constructive criticism and just hating life and being negative. But welcome in for that first little rant of the post game show. Let's talk about the actual game. Right, third quarter of this football game is what stuck out to me, both offensively and defensively. I mean, it was rough. Looking at the drives on the offensive side of the ball for South Carolina, you had 6 drives in the third quarter alone. You had an interception on the first play of the game, which when I initially saw it, I think it was an underthrow, and I still kind of do. I think Spencer waited a little bit too long, and I was actually talking about this with Andrew up in the press box. I don't think Spencer has really gotten used to how Nicole Harbor runs. Because again, this is a guy that has Olympic speed and he works up to it. So like the first 10, 15 yards, he's not going as fast as he is the last 10 or 15 yards. So I think when he should throw it, or when he would throw it to Xavier Legette, because Legette's kind of got that same speed the whole way throughout. Then he catches it, then he hits another gear, right? Well, when you watch Harbor run, especially those deep routes, it's like, okay, whoa. And like, boom, when he's throwing it, he's kind of finally hit his stride, and it tends to be an underthrow. Harbor didn't do as good of a job fighting back to it. However, I still think it was late and an underthrow. And then the next one, you have 5 plays and a punt. The next one, you have 4 plays, turnovers on down. The next one, you have 5 plays and a punt. And then you have a big 65-yard touchdown to Legette. And the next one, you have 7 yards in the punt. It wasn't good. In that third quarter, outside of that one touchdown, I think you had a combined 60 yards. And it's not like you didn't have drives. And then on the defensive side, let's look at it. First one of the game, or first drive of the third quarter, 8 plays and a touchdown. You did turn them over on downs the next time. Then they had 3 plays and a touchdown, and then a punt, and then a punt. So you gave up 14 yards. You gave 14 points. You gave up a whole bunch of yards. And then on top of that, you couldn't score. Very, very rough third quarter. And that's the third quarter that stuck out to me. However, you managed to get the job done. And that's the part we have to look at. We can look at the thing. We're going to look at the things that were not done correctly and the things we have to get better at if we want any chance of winning a bowl or getting to a bowl game, let alone winning it. But today, let's just talk about what exactly went right. Okay. The one thing I wish I could be in that press conference Tuesday and ask, because y'all, again, like I said, I prefer to watch the film first and then ask. To me, and again, I haven't watched the offense yet, so I need to go back and watch it here shortly to kind of figure out what exactly Loggins was looking at, because it seemed to me there was a couple times that the run was being forced, or trying to be balanced on offense was being forced. When the box was not favorable to run in. And I understand being balanced. I genuinely do. You have to be balanced to win games. But that was kind of a game outside of that 40-yard run for Mario where you didn't have any success on the ground. For different variables, bad execution on the blocks, missed gaps. There were a couple times backs missed some holes. Whatever the case may be, it just wasn't there. But it kind of seemed like it was forced, and it kind of put you in third and longs and like third and predictable play calls. So I wish I could kind of see what he thought was that just, hey, we need to establish a run and we're going to live and die by it. And if so, fine, it is what it is. But for me, Spencer Rattler had success throwing the ball and throwing the ball deep. They didn't have an answer for the deep cross or the deep post from Xavier Legette. They just didn't. Matter of fact, they also didn't have an answer for Simon in the flat. There were 2 or 3 times where they got him, but Simon, when he caught the ball, I think he had, he had 11 targets that game and 7 catches for 64 yards. Matt, and again, I love Trey Knox and I love what he brings to your team, but I like Joshua Simon more as an all around tight end. But besides the point, you were doing a very good job passing the ball. In my opinion, again, without watching the film, without seeing what exactly Logan saw, this was a game that, hey, let's just throw the ball and open up the run through the pass game. And it kind of just seemed like the it was forced to be balanced. But again, I'm not in the room. I don't know what Logan saw, but that's why we have to watch the film. So when I go back and watch it, well, maybe we do pick up what Logan's was seeing because we can't we can't get caught up in the instant reactions of plays. Now, there's just certain plays like like the interception that Spencer Rattler threw, a little bit overthrown, underthrown. Sorry, uh, Harbor could have fought back a little bit. Easy stuff. But the for example, like the Stone Blanton criticism. Again, he's there. He has the ability to make the plays, or at least he's put himself in the correct positions. But because it's just like, I mean, a tenth of a second too late, or we're coming in too high when we've got the guy trapped, and we can't unzip our feet, be athletic, make the tackle, stuff like that. He is so close. I don't think you understand how close he is to being a very good SEC linebacker, and I think it would help him out tremendously in a better scheme fit for him. But in a 4-2-5, what he's being asked to do, he is getting there. And he's there. He's just a tad too late on some plays. Whereas like Debo Williams, he has come into his own this last couple games. He's not only being aggressive, he's hitting holes and hitting the correct ones and getting those tackles for loss. Matter of fact, let's see, Debo Williams had 13 total tackles. He didn't have any tackles for loss. I don't know why I thought he had at least 2 or 3. It seemed like it, I guess. But to each their own. To beside the point, there's some things you just have to look back at the film and watch, and we can't just instantly throw people under the bus. Now, my takeaways from this game is this: you got it a much needed win. You needed it. How it came was irrelevant. We can talk about that Monday and Tuesday. Today, you needed it, and that's what you needed. Whether it had been a 1-point win or a 30, you would have much preferred it be a 30-point win. I'm not going to sit here and act as if I did not predict a 52-17 game. I thought this was a game South Carolina would kind of put the game away early, and it looked like they were going to. But then we kind of got stagnant on offense, and then the thing that stuck out to me is this, and it's something that I have noticed, and I couldn't really put my finger on how I wanted to describe it this whole season, but I got it now. It was something that watching Georgia last season before I got here, Georgia did a whole lot of stacking bad plays, and it wasn't just on one side of the ball. This is exactly what South Carolina has become, is when they have a bad play, they stack the bad plays. And it all started with the kick catch interference by Leggett. After that, you had 2 explosive plays, and then they wound up scoring a touchdown. Then you come back and you miss execute, and you have, I believe it's I can't remember what penalty it was that set you back, and you just continued to stack bad plays over the next 2 or 3 possessions. Whereas if we don't stack those bad plays, maybe we're looking at a different game. But it's not just this game. It's every single game they've played this year. If you go back and watch, once something negative has happened, they continue to stack it. It was very similar to Georgia last year, and why they made a lot of games closer than they needed to be. And this year for South Carolina, it's why they've lost a lot of games when they could have been in them. Instead of making a bad play and getting back and making it right, they stacked them. And that's something you can't do to have success. However, the good part of this is the defense got turnovers, and it came in bunches. They created 4 of them, 2 fumbles and 2 interceptions, one of which Blanton, again, why I preach film study is important. And before we make any kind of judgment, we need to watch it. If you watch the post game presser, he said himself the formation or how they lined up, they read wheel route before it even happened. And he had it. He was right where he needed to be. Now, with that, the pressure helped as well. Because if the pressure's not there, there's a good chance that wheel route keeps up running. He can throw it and it's a touchdown. But because the pressure's there and because Blanton read the wheel, he was in the right spot at the right time. And because of the pressure being there at the right time, it worked out for you. And that's all that matters. You got to pick six when you needed it most. Now, you still gave up 28 points. You still gave up almost, I believe it was almost 421 yards. So at this point, you are who you are as a defense. And while you have shown the ability to make plays here or there, you still are giving up explosives. And it's not necessarily because the concepts are beating you. It's because you're beating yourself. That's the most concerning thing from week 1 to week 9 is it's still the missed tackles. It's still the read or the concepts of what's exactly going on in the secondary. Like, for example, the one I just talked about with DQ and Kilgore getting beat. They both got ran by, but DQ was so close to the line of not necessarily the line of scrimmage, but in the box. I don't know if he's supposed to be that close. Is he asked to be that close? And even if he is asked to be that close, we have to know as soon as we see this guy taking off, we have to take off. And you can kind of see on film, he's like a second late, and that's all she wrote. That's it. End of story. So, again, like I said, today we take away the good. You got a W. That's 1 of 4. You need to find a way to beat Vanderbilt. The good news is I don't think you run into another team that's going to give you this issue with the read option. I don't. So that's the good part. So you don't necessarily have to worry about the up-tempo option type of play. Now, however, what you are going to have to worry about is where are we going to get consistency from this offense and not name Xavier Legette? Because that's still an issue. Mario Anderson did well yesterday, 4.7 average on the carry. But again, if you take away this isn't how football works. I get it. But if you take away that 40-yard gain, he's got 15 carries for 35 yards. So that's like 2.1 yards per carry. And the injuries suck, man. They do, especially on the offensive line. But that is who you are right now. So where's the other consistency coming from? Because I watched again, and it kind of baffles me. You aren't creating separation as a receiving unit outside of Legette. You're just not. And I know a lot of people want to see this guy get more targets and that guy get more targets. They're not creating separation, guys. A lot of the times these guys are getting targets are off of concepts, especially in the bunch formation, where concepts are playing you open. So that's got to be better. But outside of that, you've gotten a win and you needed it. Was it pretty? Absolutely not. Was it the way you wanted to? Absolutely not. Can we take something away from this game into the next game? Yes. Now, can you do it? Now we have to plan for Vanderbilt. I say we. I got to stop doing that. Now you have to start preparing for Vanderbilt. Jacksonville State is now a thing in the past. You won, you move on. We're not worried about the two teams in front of you. We're worried about this week and this week of preparation. And just a fair warning to you, if you're tired of hearing we had a great practice this week, just don't listen. Just don't. Just watch the game Saturday and let's see how they got better. That's it. That is all for the post-game show. We will see you Tuesday for film review. We're going to have 2 separate videos. You're going to have offense, you're going to have defense, and it's whatever you vote for over on Twitter. So make sure you go over there at Joseph Griffin JG and vote what you want to see from both sides of the ball. Until next time, have a good one.